Oregon's
No, that's,
I just made
that's.
workforce
that's-
now, what you guys are calling it now.
Thank you for coming.
Coastal Zone Management. Oh, the Lower Columbia Solutions Group.
That's a gubernatorial appointment. It's got over.
Do you know?
Yeah, yeah. There are 10 there. All I care is that I get left one. There, it's the. No, leave it there and I'll get it afterward. Thank you. That's a photograph of everybody in the legislature and the governor and all that. So if you go lobbying, you
Wonderful.
have a scorecard to tell the
Yeah.
players.
I need to make it pocket size.
Wow.
So if you take a snapshot,
Oh, that's true.
people are telling me this now. If you take a snapshot,
Yeah.
okay, OCZMA. What else?
Okay.
So,
Started? Okay.
Soil and Water.
So,
That's all.
Board of Health, no. The board, the Health Department,
so
the CFEDC.
it's after 5, so let's get started.
That's it.
Work sessions are an opportunity, is this on? Are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there is generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings held twice monthly. The topic is budget process.
okay. So you guys have seen this slide before, and so I just wanted to kind of reiterate the services that by law we have to provide, those being election, health services, land use planning, law enforcement and jail, property deed recording and survey mapping, road construction and maintenance, and tax assessment and collection. So per the adopted budget policies, all of our general fund departments receive a base budget amount, and that again means that they cannot make any new requests beyond what they had in the current fiscal year. That means when they're putting together their budgets, what they're submitting is the same amount in materials and services, and then the same amount in FTE, but personnel costs are updated based on step increases per their contracts, health insurance increases, PERS, and all that. What they can do is they submit a separate form called a personnel and program justification form, and that is if they're asking for additional personnel or program changes beyond their base amount, they're making that request, and so then that way we have an idea what the impact would be to the budget beyond the base budget amount. Again, departments are supposed to fully pursue any outside revenue sources that might be possible, and in the current year, they're supposed to realize savings wherever possible. So again, if they budgeted $5,000 for something, but they were able to negotiate a better deal and it only costs $4,000, then they shouldn't just look at that extra $1,000 to just be able to spend on something else.
Can I pause you for a minute? Because I love to talk about budgets. I really think we have a good handle on spending and savings. What I'm not so sure about is investing. So I wonder if there is space somewhere in a budget process. I mean, maybe this is like all during the year, when the commissioners look at unmet community needs or underspending, underinvesting, and we do a return on investment calculation. Because I'm not looking just to spend money. What I'm looking to see is if we invested in a particular activity or program, are there community benefits and payoffs that would pencil out is the saying, that would really result in better services for our people. So yes, spending, yes, savings, but also investing. And so it's the investing part that I would like to see made more robust.
Okay.
and described more in the process. Be careful, because my last county college was all about budgets. So I'm probably really dangerous right now in terms of what I know about budget.
Okay.
Just enough to be dangerous. But that was one of the issues I had. I couldn't find, I went through I couldn't find a lot of robust information about investments, reserves, all those things.
Are you talking about, so are you talking about reserves
No,
and
I'm actually
investments in
not.
regards to financial investments, or are you talking about investments in the services that we're providing as far as?
No, I'm talking about monetary financial investments.
Oh, okay. So currently, we have not, but we are now exploring, because we're getting to be maxed out, especially with the $20 million that we'll be receiving for the jail bond. So we're working with Piper Jaffray to ladder our investments. We have stuck with the pool because right now the pool's a 2.75% rate.
Right,
And
right.
so we're actually getting a better rate than we were if we were to go outside for
That's right,
longer term
yeah.
investments. But because of the fact that you can only invest, I believe it's a 50 million cap at the pool, and we're going to be getting that $20 million, so we have to go outside of the pool. But again, we're looking at laddering those investments, because we're going to.
I don't know what you mean by laddering.
So we don't want to tie it all up, say, put it into an investment for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. So basically.
Oh, you stagger
You
them.
stagger
right,
it. And
right.
so some investments, depending on when, the liquidity of when you'll need the money.
Mm-hmm.
So we might start with putting it in there for 6 months, and then have another one that we would be able to withdraw in 8 months, in a year. And so
Right.
that way we're invested, but we still have the liquidity that we need, so
Right.
that we can pay for the
At the
construction
times,
and
yeah,
the
yeah.
architecture.
Am I just missing, I should have brought my budget document, but I just couldn't find the investment component.
Well, right now, so the general fund department does have an investment line item in the revenues, and then every non-general fund department has. So for instance, like child support, they're a very small fund. They are a non-general fund department, so they have their own individual investment line item, and it shows how much their earnings are each year. The general fund has an investment line item.
So is there one place in the budget that all of those are, or are they under each separate program?
So they're under each separate program. There are like total county resources all in one spot, and it's I can't remember if it's other revenue or if it's broken out specifically to investments or not.
Okay, because
But we could look at that. But yeah, but when you're looking at each individual department, it's listed individually for each fund, and then total resources are listed elsewhere under the financial summary graphs.
So that's kind of a middle ground between the huge aggregate and the individual line items, so more work for you.
Yeah. So in regards, this is another one that you guys have seen, and this is just to give you kind of a general idea of how we start. And I know that we've had these conversations before. So we start in January distributing the cost sheets for departments to review. During this time, departments are also kind of looking at, because this is midway through the current fiscal year for them, so they're kind of looking at, okay, what are we trying to accomplish this year that we've budgeted for? What are our goals that we've accomplished? And where do we think we're going to be at for those goals for the coming fiscal year? So is this an extension because it's not something that's going to be accomplished in 1 year? Or, do we have a new goal for next year? So they're looking at those things for their departments. And these departmental goals, what they're trying to accomplish, does not preclude what the board goals are. This is just things that they themselves are trying to get done, and what they're asking for in their budgets that has to do with what they're trying to get done.
So this is, it's always good to talk about budgets. They're the best. It says departments look at factors, and it includes citizen input. Each one of us commissioners, I think, has an interest in citizen input, both to heart for the voters in our district and the citizens and people who live there in our district, but also for citizen input all over the county, it occurs to me that it would be good to have an iterative process back and forth to know all year long, but particularly at budget time, what are our citizens saying? So if we could, I don't know, are others interested in, because I know people talk to us a lot, sometimes really loud, sometimes really long, but we get a lot of different kinds of citizen input. So if we could kind of match up and see how they correlate, I think that would make a stronger budget process.
So if I'm more than happy to get to that next slide, but I just want to kind of go through finishing up with this slide as well as to,
Sorry.
I think it's on the other side.
Okay.
Yeah, as to why we have this timeline, because I know that that's also sometimes a frustration for you guys as to when I need information by. And part of that reasoning is so right now all the departments are working on getting their budget requests for next fiscal year submitted to me. And so then that way, some have submitted them already, so I'm looking through those, and then early next week, I'll be looking through the others. And then I start having meetings with them to kind of go through and say, hey, can you explain, this to me? What about this? Or this doesn't look right. Are you sure that that's the right number? So we go through those meetings. And so then that way, when they do have additional requests, I have a better understanding of what it is. It's not just, oh, well, it'd just be really nice if we could have that. I have a good, thorough understanding. So then when I'm trying to compile the entire document, I then also have to put all that section that says financial summary as well as the budget message. I then have to compile all those charts, tables, and graphs, and having them have all their numbers put into the budget module. Then I can start printing off all of the reports associated with those numbers so I can start building all of those charts and graphs. So once they submit their requested information, that's when I have to actually start building all the pretty stuff that people actually like to look at in the document. And so that takes a little bit of time for me to be able to compile all that. And then there's the printing piece. And then that's when we have the document to provide to the budget committee. And so now we can go to that slide.
Sorry, I didn't
That's
mean
okay.
to get mad at you.
And so in regards to the goals, like I said, you're right, you guys are, citizen input as well, and the staff are usually here at the various meetings to hear where you're expressing your concerns, and, as well as the citizens who come forward during the public comment period, as well as citizens who come and provide presentations. And so they're taking all of that information to heart as well, so that way when they're going back, even though you might not have directly come to them individually and said, we really need to do something about housing, but they're hearing about housing through these meetings.
They being who?
They being the department heads.
Oh.
Are hearing about, we have serious real concerns about our housing issue. It'd be really nice if we could do something, look at our comp plan, update our code, those sorts of things. So they're taking all of the information that they're listening to at these board meetings, as well as we have department head meetings every Thursday after a board meeting where we're following up. So if there wasn't somebody here, we're following up and saying, this is what was discussed. These are the things that there's being concerns expressed about. So that way we're all hearing the same message.
So, is there a way that the message that you're hearing can be reported out to us?
Looped back.
So
Yeah,
what
and to the public.
So what we can do is, we can start when the department heads have their goals for next year, we can bring those before you, and which has been done in the past, that where the department heads have said, this is what we're hearing, this is what we're working towards, this is what our goals are, which, we've done it. It might not have gone as well as commissioners would have liked it to, but we did do that a year and a half or so ago.
Right, yeah, I mean, I think we can decide whatever works for the staff and
Yeah.
for the commissioners
Yeah.
of having more input of some sort. That might be that the planning commission is hearing, 5 times a month that they don't like this, and the parks are hearing this is, and that may already be part of the regular
So-
reporting.
Yeah, so that's, so in regards to community input, when we're listening to, like I said, the various people who are coming to these meetings, and then we also have, you guys have your liaison groups that you go to, but our department heads have monthly meetings that they go to. And so, for instance, the public health department, some of the meetings that they attend on a monthly basis are the Human Services Advisory Committee, CHART, NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, which is also right now working together with Clubhouse, which is, it's a concept, it's an international thing it's like a drop-in center for people with mental illness. Caring for Clatsop Coalition, Clatsop County Healthy Families Program, Prevention Works, Head Start, Lower Columbia Hispanic Council, North Coast Food Web, La Leche League, North Coast Breastfeeding Coalition, Northwest Regional Substance Use Committee. These are just some of the monthly meetings that the public health staff, which includes mental health, goes to. So they're taking that information that those citizen stakeholders are coming and saying, well, it would be really great if the county could, maybe not provide financial resources, but provide some sort of time match as far as staff working towards something to be able to, so that if La Leche wanted to be able to write a grant or something like that. So it might not mean that the county is giving a monetary resource, but as far as a partnership of some kind.
Let me just slow it down a little bit, because what I'm contemplating is that all year long, we have a feedback loop of staff and board, so that we keep on hearing more of what's going on, and then the pressure isn't on you, because I feel sometimes like you're the focal point and the whole weight of everything is coming down. That's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is a dispersion over time in all of us, so that we can have a more relaxed conversation and consider all of these stakeholder groups coming to us to do those public presentations, because then we get to listen to each other and we get a better, more complete picture, so that we can really have an integrated, coherent county between the voters and the commissioners and the staff efforts.
So what type of, can you describe to me, like,
It's a longer thing. Let's put it in a bucket list and talk about it, because we can't do it right now for this budget, but as we're going forward into the new year, as we look at our annual plan, you remember, because the rules say we're going to have an annual plan, so we can look at how to have stakeholder input, and that staff and stakeholder input all year round on how things are going.
But if I could ask to kind of get an idea of when you would want that to start, because it kind of seems like you guys don't like when we start the process. And so if I know a better time to start the process.
Bless your heart. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yesterday, no kidding. I don't want to unduly burden the staff. I'd like us to ease into it. And so when it works, but as soon as it can work. Well, all deliberate speed. Kathleen, maybe you've got different ways to think about it.
Well, one way that I'm thinking about it, and I know that this is just a partial list, and because I work with senior issues, I know that maybe part of this is telling the story. The people that I work with in that, they've had different events throughout the year on caretaking, caring for the caretakers, or recognizing dementia, or those sort of things. And so that's an interaction with the public. It's a public event. People can get feedback. And maybe if that was mentioned in somehow either on the Facebook page, or I don't know, where people can see that the county is actively working with these groups these stakeholder groups know that we're working with them, but the public doesn't necessarily know. So if we had more stories out about what we do, then we would have a place that we could go back and go, well, the county worked with the senior men's group once a month at the senior center. They worked with the memory care units up at Clatsop with the extraordinary living event that they have up at the community college. And what is our input on there? Do we have staff that's working with that? Have they asked for grants from us? How do we tell that story? I think the story's there. It's just a matter of how do we pull it out to tell it? And I don't know the answer to that, but.
I think I have a piece. Part of it is our assignments within the county, that we report in our commissioners' reports what is going on. I think that's a piece.
Yeah, that is.
And that never leaves this room.
No, it's recorded. It's in our
No,
minutes. It's in, well,
Well, I think it's a start, I think what you're saying is a starting point is like, how do we get more stories in the paper? How do we
Tell our story
How
better?
do we tell our story better?
And how do we enrich our story? Because
Yeah.
it's lovely that we're doing it, but I want the information to come back to us
does it
with
mean?
staff and community, and in the public presentation part of every meeting.
I think
So,
it really is kind of on the commissioner, though. I agree with Sarah. When we had the Fair Board meeting 2 weeks ago, Monica was there going line by line on each budget item, did a great job, and everybody was participating in it. And then it's really my opportunity then, as a county commissioner, to come and give a report about what, they're thinking and some of the, ideas that came out of that, about capital projects, possible, facilities upgrades at the counties or at the fairgrounds. So it really is kind of the county commissioner's spot or responsibility.
and
That's
that,
my concern for
Well,
a 5-minute
and that
limit.
way, that way it is communicated to each of the commissioners and to the staff, and that, in any of the public that comes to our meetings.
Both people, 3 or 4 or 5 people.
Well,
I mean, why is
will be
it?
I bet we
here
will.
later.
Yeah, hundreds.
Well, I don't.
This is a work
that-
session.
But I have been attending meetings for 2 years, so I think I have a pretty good handle on how many people come to most meetings. That's not the way you get,
okay, I'm not saying that it's the
Information.
only thing, but let's
of
not
it.
diminish that.
That's
That
part
could
of
be
it.
a goal if we want to do some kind of communication piece as a goal to say we want to communicate better with our constituents.
that's number 1 goal on my list.
No, that was one of my goals.
Actually is one of my
Okay,
goals.
let's-
Report out what's been said at the meeting.
And let's get back to this.
Well, I have.
Thank you for your interest.
I have something that I'd like to share at this exact point. Brian Kidder is a member of our Budget Committee, and he wrote me this memorandum today because he went to the board packet and looked through this presentation. And he has, I think he, as a member of the Budget Committee, he was focused on the role of the Budget Committee. And I think he makes some really good points here. I'll give you a minute to. Can I pass them out?
Ms. Teresa,
Excuse me?
Ms. Teresa,
Yeah. You're- Sorry. Um,
I really appreciate his thoughtful input, and maybe we can, I don't know if we take this under advisement. I don't know how we're going to proceed, because there are several, I mean, Kathleen, you, when you raised that issue of bonus performance pay, we said we were going to deal with it in a work session. I mean, that's why I didn't vote for your motion right then, because I thought, oh, we'll deal with this in the work session. So I don't know when there's time.
I got the impression this was an overall view of the process. I agree with you, I'd like to revisit that, but I'm not
Yeah.
sure if it's in this particular work session, but I agree with
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I just don't want to lose sight of that.
But coming back to what we talked about before, like, let's just say Commissioner Wheeler is telling us the priorities for the Fair Board, and he says that in his report. Is there some place where we can go under the Fair Report, on this date, we had this concern, and then have a way to go back and revisit that, like, how is that coming along? And, I mean, is there a way we can deposit some of this information on a spreadsheet, or, I don't know, and I don't know who would do it, see, that's the other thing. I know everybody is working the capacity, so how do we keep track of the evidence that we are working with the public? Because we are working with the public every day. So how do we keep track of what we're learning?
Output
and how we're
measures and all that, yeah.
So in some instances, kind of depending on what it is, so we have, like if you guys have a question about something that's happening, like with the jail project, we can provide those weekly updates in the bulletin, which also goes out to the public. It goes to the Daily Astorian, it goes to the radio station, it gets posted on our website, and it gets posted on Facebook. So there's an opportunity for people to see, you know, what's going on with the jail. If it's something, you know, that the Fair Board is considering doing next year in their capital projects, that's something that the Fair Board or the Fair Manager would report in his weekly update. And so there's an opportunity to kind of, if there's questions that are brought up, there's the opportunity for the department head to kind of follow up and say, you know, this was an area of concern, this is something that's being addressed.
And I think that's very valid. I think it's needed. I know, like in Northwest Senior Disability Services, they every 6 months come out with a brief newsletter about what they've achieved, and I don't know if there's a way we can build, like we've talked before about getting links to these different agencies, so people can do that. But if we can have someone can kind of look through, like the PR person, look through and go, oh, I see that we've done this in the Fair Board, and this is they're going to done this, and just get it out into the public more. I believe we are working with the public, and they are giving us input, but I don't think we are linking all the work that's being done to the budget and to how it feeds into the budget, because it's being done. It's just we're not telling us. And I'm going to say that one more time, but you know what I'm saying? So
There's a theme here.
yeah, I mean, I do think we have to tell folks what's happening.
Two things that we did at Warrenton, just, I wrote a column in the Columbia Press for 12 years, just of what we did that week or what was of particular interest at the meeting. So that was my way as a commissioner and then mayor to communicate with the public. We did the newsletter route. We put together a newsletter. It was a big project. It took a lot of staff time,
Yeah.
and we didn't feel like there was a lot of people that really read it in the end. I mean, it was just, we spent a lot of time putting it together, a lot of time compiling it, and it was really nice when we got done with it, but we didn't get a lot of readership. So.
And that's one thing that we're trying to do with the bulletin, because
Yeah.
is that the one thing that department worked on all week? No, not at all. But is that kind of like a project that we know that the public has been wanting to hear about or concerned about, or that that did take a significant amount of staff time that week? Yes. And so there's, you know, as far as telling the whole story of everything that we're doing,
No one's
no,
going
it's
to
not.
read that.
Yeah,
Raising
it's
the
not.
profile of the update might
Yeah.
be the way to do it. Or
So,
bulletin, excuse
Right.
me.
Like raising the profile, like
Of the
of
bulletin,
the
making
value of the information that's in there?
Well, it's very good information.
Yeah.
I just think we need to promote it better.
Oh,
I
okay.
think the bulletin has improved this year, and I appreciate that. But I also think that we also need to encourage all of these different groups that are connected with the county to have consistent and meaningful notes of the meeting. So that if someone's interested in a topic, they can go under, I'm gonna pick on him again.
Geez, twice?
Go under the parks, the fair board, and go, oh, I can follow from meeting to meeting because I'm reading in their notes what's happening. And so if all the different work on that, I know it's an ongoing thing, if we all work on that, then people that are interested in certain topics will be able to follow their topic through our website.
Yeah. And so in regards to Mr. Kidder's feedback, I appreciate his feedback. In regards to being able to get involved at the department head level, and having them be in those meetings, is that what he's asking?
No, I don't think so. I think he's asking to convene the budget committee at more beginning with the goal-setting process. And I don't think they're asking to be at the table as much as they are to be informed. I mean,
So are you referring to like the board goal-setting session?
I hope that the board goal-setting guides the budget process.
It should, yes, but we have to start that process sooner, and right now it's here in March, and so ideally that would start in January.
Well, I guess my other issue is that and I think it's become especially more visible since our budget director is also the interim county manager. I have worked at every level of government, okay? And when I worked for the Department of Commerce, I ran a $55 million program. We did our budget in about 6 weeks. This is the longest budget process I have ever witnessed in any government I've ever worked in. To absorb staff time this intensely for 4 or 5 months is just, wow. I mean, I think it's
So-
kind of a lot.
So the department staff time, their time that they're spent putting together their budget is about 6 weeks.
Well, they haven't heard anything about the commission's goals.
I understand that, and that, no disrespect, is on the commission.
That's right.
Okay, well, I apologize for that. It's not my fault. I thought our first meeting in January was going to be a goal-setting meeting. So maybe that's something we need to work out.
So right now, as being the interim, I would be happy to set the board's calendar when you guys want to do things, but I need you to guide me as to when you
Okay.
guys want to do things.
Okay?
And we have to communicate with each other and consider and deliberate and plan, and then we can communicate with you. So I really appreciate you're in a very challenging situation. Thanks for doing it with such grace and good humor and skill.
So I don't want to kind of, they're all in there, but these are some of the other community stakeholder groups that emergency management goes through. And then just a variety of others, the rec, lands and planning advisory, tourism promotion, public safety has a multitude, as well as the sheriff is just regularly out there himself in regards to throughout the county. Community development, planning and building codes, they take a lot of daily, a lot of departments take it, but the building codes are out there working with the contractors on a daily basis through the permitting process, over the counter. And then we hear regularly from citizens as well in regards to where they are pleased or not pleased with the code enforcement side of things. And then, like I said, the departments, divisions, they also have their goals. And so in regards to a goal-setting session that the budget committee might be involved in, that is, the departments don't all get together to discuss their goals. That's something that the departments do on an individual department level basis. But I did provide to you some of the things that the department heads are working towards for the 1920 fiscal year. And then in regards to the budget committee meetings, the number of meetings as well as the length of the meetings held each year during the budget process is determined by the budget committee, which consists of the 5 board of commissioners as well as the 5 citizen members that the board appoints. Citizen Montero did point out that I did not have listed as the first budget committee on April 24th, which is when the budget will be distributed and the budget message is presented at that time. So that is actually the first meeting. And so I'll go ahead and pass these around so that way you guys can have an updated budget calendar that reflects that, that title on there. So also in regards to, Also, in regards to Mr. Kidder's comment, and maybe that's something that as a board, you guys want to discuss during the budget committee process, but it's not a rubber stamp opportunity. If you have a concern, if at that point in time, there's performance pay in the budget and you don't want performance pay in the budget, you say, I would like to see this budget without the performance pay in it, and we would remove it. It is easier to remove something than to start adding some really big ticket items. Not that it can't be done, but simply where are the monies for the big ticket items going to come from? And so if you wanted to remove performance pay, which is an additional $130,000 in the budget because you want to focus more on some other program, then you say, you know, I don't think performance pay should be in the budget, but now we have this additional money. This is where I would like to see it. So it's not a rubber stamp opportunity. It's an opportunity to say, to discuss, but it does take the entire budget committee to say whether or not they want to make that change.
So with respect, when I first came on the County Board of Commissioners and went to my first budget hearing as a county commissioner, I've been in a whole lot of budget hearings for legal bodies across the years, and the county commissioners, when our part of the budget came up, we had absolutely, at least I had absolutely no input into the makeup of that budget item. The county commissioners got up from the table and walked out of the room or out of the building, did not participate in any way, shape, or form in the discussion of that budget item, our budget item. When we came back in the room, we were not told what the result of the vote was, and when a commissioner asked for the result of the vote, was said, oh, we took it all away from you. So there was not only no information provided, I thought there was active disrespect. And when I asked about that, the then county manager said, oh, it's the Clatsop County way. So I hope we're changing that.
Well, in regards to the stipend piece, no, you guys probably will still leave because you don't have a say. It is the Citizen Budget Committee that has a say in your stipend.
For us to remove ourselves astonishes me, and I don't think it occurs anyplace else. And I think I want us to talk about that. Not now, not here today. We've got a timeline, we've got a schedule, but...
Well, I can follow up from the legal perspective if you guys are allowed to stay in, and I can just shoot you that in an email. Because legally, if you're allowed to be in here, then there is no reason that you can't be in here.
Thank you kindly.
So in regards to the releasing of the budget document, again, Citizen Montero had sent an email, and I used the term discuss when I should have used the word, the term deliberate. You can't deliberate on the budget document until the budget message has been read. In this instance, and that's per the local budgeting manual on page 15, section 5, I believe. And so you can get your document, you can review it, but until after the budget message has been read, you cannot deliberate as a body on that document. that's easily resolved because you're not going to get your budget document until the day you receive your budget message, so you won't be tempted to deliberate amongst each other about it.
But isn't it also, deliberating means that you may come to a decision, discussing, like a work session, you're not necessarily gonna come to the decision. So is there a way that there can be more discussion? Is that part of what the concern is?
Well, so it says the budget committee is allowed to meet for training and advisory reviews throughout the year, but the budget may not be deliberated before the first meeting for which the notice is published.
Yeah, that's different. One is retrospectively. We can talk about the budget we've already passed.
Yeah.
We just can't talk about the one prospectively that we're considering passing.
Yes, yeah. So again, additional public input opportunities, April 24th, which is when the budget document will be distributed. At that time, it's posted on the website and it's also in the libraries in the county. And the budget message will be read at that meeting. May 1st, and again, I didn't get this slide updated, so April 24th is actually the first meeting, May 1st is the second meeting, May 7th is the third meeting, May 8th is the district budget committee meetings, and then May 4th, if necessary, would be or May 9th would be the fourth budget committee meeting.
What is the district budget committee?
So we have 4 service districts, the
Oh, for
rural
our
law
special
enforcement,
districts.
4-H, roads, and Westport.
And that's done separately?
Those district budgets are,
Adjourn, reconvene.
yeah. So we have 15 more minutes to kind of hash out any additional questions, concerns that you guys might have, feedback, input as to how you would like to continue to see improvement.
Trends are good. Trends are good. Always room for more improvement. Trends are good.
Okay.
So if we were going to revisit the idea of having the department heads come and talk to us, is there a way we can have that without having the setup where we have the entire county staffs sitting there for 8 hours? Is there a way that we can have some input from them?
So the hard part is what happens with meetings is somebody starts talking about their passion, which is their work, their department's work, and you know, you guys don't realize everything that's going on day to day, and so then you start asking questions, and so then it runs long. And so when you think about all the different departments and divisions, it would be a matter of, okay, we want to hear from everybody, but we're going to stick to, you have 10 or 15 minutes to tell us what's going on, and at 10 or 15 minutes, you're done. And now the next, I don't want to sound cold, but it kind of depends on how many questions that you guys, or how much you want to hear.
We did the budget, just going back to how we did it in St. Martin.
Please.
We actually didn't do big background about what the department does on it. We actually just had them there to answer questions. So you would just be there, I'm here to answer questions, and then they would answer questions from the budget committee. We didn't really take a lot of time for that
And-
kind of comment from the department.
And we have done that in the past as well. The departments are all required to be there should anybody have a question of them. And it's kind of varied over the years as to somebody comes up, just kind of describes what they're asking for in their budget, what they're doing. But in previous years, when I first got here, the budget meetings were 2 hours. And the department heads were there, and there were, okay, are there any questions? No. Okay, now we're going to go to this budget. Are there any questions? Yes. Okay, let's answer those questions. So it kind of depends on, again, what the budget committee and the board wants of the staff.
I think it would be I believe that one of the reasons that you involve citizens in a budget process is to help inform them about how government works. And because so much, I mean, we basically have a zero-based budget. And so because of that, and because so much of our money is non-discretionary, it doesn't change a great deal from year to year. So I think that makes those changes very important. And I don't see why we couldn't do something where we would convene. I'm thinking about the hours of both the budget committee volunteers and our staff. I don't want any staff member to have to sit in this room for 8 hours and spend 10 minutes talking about their department. It seems to me there's a way that we could schedule things like that.
But that's why I'm thinking, sorry.
I know that part of the, I'm understanding, tell me if I'm wrong in it, that the departments, one of the things that they're doing is looking at if they have a master plan in front of them of, you know, like we've talked about, what's been done, what's irrelevant, and what's the new priority. Could we use that basis for them to come to us and say, this is what we're looking for in this particular year based on this master plan?
And
Is there a
so,
way they can report out, and can we use that as an opportunity to understand?
so they do, that's in their budget highlights. And so the budget highlights section in the budget is essentially them saying, this is the stuff that's really sticking out this year, you know, as to what is a highlight to one department versus another. One department that might only have like $100,000 budget, a $1,000 change is a big change. Another department that might have $1 million budget, $1,000 isn't a big change, but maybe a $10,000 change is. And so those are the things that they're highlighting in the budget highlights. So that would be like during that budget process, kind of like you said, they're there to answer the questions. Well, maybe they didn't address one of those changes well enough, or maybe they didn't address it at all, or maybe you just wanted to hear them talk about it a little bit more. That's an opportunity for you to ask more questions. Does that answer your question? So the budget highlights, they are addressing those major changes in that budget highlights section.
But don't you all start kind of looking at this in November?
Well, the department that really gets started on stuff, and they might look at things as well, but budget and finance has to build cost sheets for all the departments, and we start that in November. And so that's for all the personnel. So we're looking at what the insurance rate costs are going to, increases are going to be. Any, you know, staff are allowed to, per their contracts, have salary increases, looking at what COLA increases might be. So those are the things that we start in November, so that way come January, we can distribute it to all the
Well,
other departments.
I'm just thinking that, you know, we're kind of coming up against deadlines here, but as we look towards next January, between going through this budget process and over the next, before January, if there's a way to have more feedback, so we can help them and they can help us when we come to maybe January of next year, have a more content to work on our goals.
So something potentially that we could do too is perhaps come December, you guys only have one meeting typically in December, that could
No,
change.
but I'm talking like, you know, starting in July or August or, you know, I mean, to have.
But what I was gonna say is come December, when we're getting ready to start the, you know, the January, perhaps then departments can, in that weekly bulletin or something like that, say, these are the things that I'm looking at when I start developing my budget.
And they will know in December how their year went and what they're looking for the next year, so.
Well, they'll have an idea, since
They
for
have
their
an-
year, it's
they'll
only
have an
6
idea.
months,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that would be helpful, I think, that maybe we should just plan on December or November. I know we only have a single meeting usually.
Well, it wouldn't have to be at a meeting, they could just provide it in written form
So
in.
that we can work on it,
So
yeah.
that you can read it and have it. Because it's, if you're wanting something coming before you on a regular basis, that does make it more complicated, because you do have a lot of, you know, people who want to do presentations to present to you. You do have very full agendas. So it does make it difficult to have a number of meetings.
Hence the need for planning. So if we plan, what we want. I mean, that's our job, right?
And I think also, we have with the increasing the bulletin, what do they call it when we get
The weekly bulletin?
To have somebody, I guess it would be Tom, to look over it and maybe over this year, we've done this and this and this, or, to kind of have a synopsis of
Like come June.
the highlights, the highlights of this year from the bulletin.
Semi-annual?
Yeah.
I'd like to see us come up with a public information strategy for our budget. And that would probably be 12 months long.
That would probably be what?
12 months, probably, maybe 9 months long. And something that addresses the issue of results.
Outcomes. I mean, that's the language in the board rules I'm thinking of, is outcomes.
yeah, well, I-
Outputs, what did our auditor call them? Output measures? I mean,
I call them performance measures.
whatever, we're
Yeah,
talking about the
and-
difference in the world,
And I think
not
that's-
just data.
Exactly. Well, no, I think that, Monica and I have talked about this, that performance measures are the message that you give to the public about how you spent their money and what has resulted from it.
Yeah.
And it is something
And I'd like to see those be more robust.
Yeah, and it is something that, that we have known through, that's something that regularly through the GFOA budget award process that we're regularly marked down for. And it is something that we would need to hire an outside consultant.
Yes, you would.
I'll be honest, right now, I don't know because I don't know when our next county manager will be coming on. I don't know that that's something that we'll be able to accomplish this next year as far as hiring a consultant, because I don't know when the county manager will get hired. And right now, I'm sorry, I can't take on overseeing that.
3 jobs is too much for you?
So I just want to be honest.
Sure.
I agree. It's something that I do want to hire a consultant so that we can improve upon it. I just,
So let me ask then, understanding that you're operating at full capacity, is there something else you're doing that could be supplementally done by someone else? Because what we're talking about here is really important county board level business, and it's making sure that the taxpayer money is spent well and we have good results. So I think rather than just saying, no, you have to keep doing everything, which is neither reasonable nor necessary, perhaps it would be possible to look at offloading something else
I
and
think
getting
that could be
supplemental
another-
help in
We need to
that.
talk about that at
Yeah.
another time. We need to adjourn this work session
But
because our meeting's going to start.
yeah. So, okay, thank you.